Rapid Fighters back again. Check it to wreck it. Let's begin. Welcome to another edition of Rabbit Fighters, the podcast where three pals sit down and talk about a cultural touchstone that one or more of us missed the boat on. Perhaps one day we'll reach an episode where it's no longer necessary for me to have to explain this premise of this every single time, but that day is not today.
Never.
This week, you're in for a treat. We're talking about the absurdist Netflix sketch comedy series, I Think You Should Leave. Mostly season 1, probably some season 2 and 3 might slip in there every now and again, but I Think You Should Leave is, of course, the brainchild of SNL flunky, Adult Swim regular, and famous Detroiter Tim Robinson. So get ready for turbo time, Rabbit Fighters, as we fly Jeff Chris down here from Indiana to mix this episode professionally. I'm Joshua.
I'm Brian.
I'm Greg. And I don't get that reference. Is that little reference string there at the end there?
To that end, so this was one that I put on the list that Brian and I had seen ad nauseum, that I think we've been like messaging in our like side Slack for a long ass time, quoting endlessly, and nobody else seems to pay any attention to us as we're off on our tangents,
including me.
Yeah, just trying to get people to bite, and then so we can recommend the show to them. So this is the opportunity for us to be able to officially make you watch this show and tell us what you think about it. So it may even be the impetus for this entire podcast, honestly.
I was going to say that's the whole reason of this podcast is to get Greg to watch things that we like.
It's a Trojan horse. Yeah. Brian was sitting there at home going, can't believe I have to listen to Tom fucking Petty so I can finally get to Tim Robinson.
So Brian, why don't we start with you? Like, what's your history with this show? I know it came out in 2019, so it's not a long history, but how did you first discover it?
Yeah, it's one of those shows. I didn't even catch it the first season, but you start seeing it everywhere and people were quoting it, or you see like the memes or GIFs for things that are coming out. And I finally caught it in season 2 because my friends kept sending me clips to it or making references to characters. And I'm like, what is this guy? You know? And so finally I sat down and actually watched it on Netflix, and, it is certainly my brand of humor. So it resonated with me. So, and I've been, oddly enough, I never really sat down and really watched the complete first season. I think I'd just seen it in clips, so many clips on YouTube and stuff. And then I picked it up in season 2, season 3. So it's one of those things now that is so referenced that I see it all the time. And it kind of like our separate side chat. I had other friends that would send me other clips of just little funny things they thought were hilarious, and it was just coming from this show. So I eventually just sat down and was like, all right, when season 3 came out, I kind of binged that, and then I started going backwards. If you're anywhere on social media, I feel like you've just gotten inundated.
Oh yeah, it's completely permeated every corner of it.
The GIFs and the clips and the mashup type stuff. So I think we even included a couple of these in the show notes, whatever, of just like the popular ones that now I see all the time. But yeah, it's like they're unavoidable at this point.
You can be in different worlds on social media and in the internet. So like, I saw stuff from you two guys and like nobody else about this guy. I'm like, who the hell is this guy that these guys keep referencing? Like, I have no freaking idea who he is. And I don't really watch SNL. And I don't really I have kids and we watch like kids shows and kids movies, and like, everyone goes to bed and like, yeah.
Well, now you will when they go to bed.
Yeah.
I was first made aware of this because I was already aware of Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson from their show Detroiters. But there was one episode in there where I'm not going to name any names, but the three of us worked at a startup at one point. There's one episode in there where it's all about advertising in Detroit. They're upset because there's a startup that moves into one of the buildings near them, and they all wore hoodies that were exactly the same as the hoodies that we had.
Orange. They're orange.
Our exact same color.
Were they like insane. Dreamsicle orange?
Yep, creamsicle orange. So it was like, but from that moment there, I was like hooked on it, and I really enjoyed like the writing and just the stupid situations that they got into. So when I saw that it was Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson to a smaller degree on Netflix doing this sketch comedy show, I was all in. So I caught it during the first season and never looked back. Like from the first episode of that, it just completely hooked me.
It's funny because I know the other guy, Richardson from Ted Lasso, which I have a weird history with that show. Jason Sudeikis was my improv coach for like a year, and
Damn.
yeah, so I watched that. Yeah, I used to do improv, and I was like the worst guy on a really good team, and he was our coach. And and so yeah, I was like, I'm watching Ted Lasso, even if it stinks, I'm gonna watch it and support Sudeikis. And this guy comes on later in the series, this billionaire from Ghana who wants to like grab one of the team's best players and make this all African league. So then I saw this guy on this show and was like, oh my God, it's Edwin Akufu, man. That guy's great. So I saw it in reverse. Like I saw him first before I saw Tim.
That's funny because the very first episode of Detroiters stars Jason Sudeikis.
That's funny, yeah. They all know each other. All these guys know each other. It's a really tight circle.
So for anyone out there in podcast land who has not seen this and doesn't mind spoilers, real quick, the whole premise of I Think You Should Leave, as far as I can like break it down, because it's very absurdist. But basically the line that goes through all of them is it sort of centers around these characters that for one reason or another are just not in touch with reality and take seemingly normal social situations, and they just overstay their welcome far beyond where most people would tolerate. I think that covers like 90% of all the sketches if you try and break it down like that. I think there's a few outliers definitely, but that's as much as I've pieced together.
I tried to explain it to the girlfriend not too like maybe an hour or two ago, and in the sense where
whose girlfriend?
Mine.
Oh, your girlfriend. Oh, okay, that makes sense now.
So she was like, well, I don't understand. Everyone was just yelling all the time. Well, I had to explain to her, oh, it's sketch comedy. And she's like, oh, well, you didn't tell me that. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm meets sketch comedy in terms of like the uncomfortable, how far can I push this barrier? And she's like, okay, well, that makes a little more sense. I mean, she only saw like 10 minutes while we were on the couch watching it, and I was dying, and she was looking at me like I'm a
so she's not a convert.
It's like Curb Your Enthusiasm meets a nearly fatal fentanyl overdose.
Yeah,
it's just everyone's such like face melting weird dudes in the show. Like everyone's sweating and like about to pass out.
To be fair, she got 10 minutes of no context. So I don't know. I don't believe it's up her alley regardless, but I have a funny story about that, but we'll talk about it later.
All right. So Greg, what did you think? So when you sat down and set the scene for us, did you wait till everyone went to bed, sat down, or
wait for everyone to go to bed? Yeah. First of all, I will say I think if this show is about anything, it's about how societal norms is just bullshit, and that one person speaking any bit of the truth is like cast out of society, so like, and this is kind of a comedian's ethic where comedians speak the truth, and then some people love us for it, some people hate us for it. A comedian is an outcast in most senses of the word. Like most of them do their stuff, they get paid a pittance. Like if you're a stand-up, you travel the country over and over again, these cruddy little clubs. People throw drinks at you, they shout at you. You live out of your car. Like even successful comedians will tell you like they lived out of their car for like 2 years or something. If you want to be a comic, there is this sort of thing that you have to go through. If you want to, even if you get famous or not, you have to go through this fire of being like a hated outcast, and then you might push your way through to become a beloved and hated outcast. Like that's the best you can hope for. So I think if the show is about anything, it's about that. It's about like, because a lot of the premise of these sketches are he says something like, nobody wants to admit that the social layers hanging over all this guy's complaints are bullshit.
That it's completely within your right to eat all the fully loaded nachos.
That's exactly what I was thinking of as I was saying. so saying that, like, he's like, if he says to this girl, like, hey, you're kind of eating all the fully loaded nachos, and it's kind of bullshit because, like, it's really inconsiderate to me, which it is, she'd be like, oh my God, you're a you're a freak, but he's like, but I want this date to work, so I'm gonna do the worst thing and go to the bartender or whatever and tell him to like break her up from eating meat off with chips. So yeah,
I love how he consistently gives into the intrusive thought and then goes with it. That's like my favorite part. The nacho thing. It's like, what should I never say in this scenario? I'm just gonna fucking say
it. I know. What I love is when he gets caught in a lie, and like half the time his reaction is to cry almost, where he's like, "What's going on? It was making you cold." She's like, "There's no air vent over our head." Like, I just love that his out is to cry, because my kids do that. I mean, my kids are like, you'll be like, "Hey, you did this thing," and they're like, "What?" And you're just like, "Oh my God. I mean, you did the thing. Just admit you did the thing." And they just do this like, I'm thinking of other crap that I can do to get out of this, but they got nothing.
So were the rules of nacho sketch, was that one, since that came to your mind, do you feel like that's like one of your favorites, or the ones that you like the most, or?
That was funny. I will say this about the series in general, and it's something I had to break through, is like, I'm a middle kid, and I have classic middle kid, everybody get along, instincts. And I'm like, when I see a stand-up comic bomb, I feel like horrible for them. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could fix this.
So this made you terribly uncomfortable?
So like, yeah, when you guys would message me these sketches and stuff, I was like, no, I want to fix it or something. Like, I just want people to get along. Like, even when drama can't happen if everybody gets along, you're still like,
I think that's fair. I think there's more than a few in there that I feel the same way about. Like the Magicians Suck sketch comes to mind, where with Cecily Strong. They have a nice date, and he gets pulled up on stage, and the magician just sort of like, just on stage ribbing of him, think nothing of it, go home, and she blows it so far out of proportion, of just questioning his manhood, and just their marriage is in shambles, and he goes back to confront the magician, like just that whole thing.
Like, you're all my life! And they cut it right there. I was like, that's exactly where you cut it. You ruined my life.
Like, and trying to think of like, what are my least favorite sketches? Like, that one came to mind, and I've watched it twice since like that. I was thinking about that one. I don't know if that's my least favorite sketch, but that definitely makes me like the most uncomfortable.
I love when they're driving home and she's just staring out the window, like she's upset, just like,
oh my God. I think it's one of the best because oh my God, it's so freaking smart. And
he walks in and he's like, the babysitter did art with the kids. How cool is that?
But like, I had to push through that and be like, okay, I have to be okay with this guy being this guy to think anything that he's doing is funny. I watched it twice. I watched the series twice in like 2 days in a row. And
dang, nice. Did your homework.
When everyone was in bed. And the second time, I was like, okay, I've pushed through it, and I can watch this and be like, okay, it's okay that this guy is flaming out in front of his office. But they're, like the office one where they give him the whoopee cushion. Mm-hmm. That's one where I'm talking. That's one where I'm talking about where he is right, but he's like, societal norms would be like, oh, you guys got me. But he really feels fucking humiliated, right? And like, they are all jerks. Like, the whole office like conspired to make him feel like a turd, like, but when you say it, it like blows up the social norms that you're supposed to go along with, and like they're like, go home, yes, go home.
I want to go home and take a nap.
Face your family picture.
I think historically, this type of comedy is right in line with my taste. And I know Joshua's, in a sense, not as far back, but I mean, he and I have talked like about shows like The State and Mr. Show. And I know if he's sort of, you're fans of those, but historically, would this be up your alley, Greg? Or like, is this your brand of humor, or not traditionally where you would find this to be funny?
I mean, like, it isn't like, Like, the British Office is a great example of one where
Yeah.
I think it's superior to the American version, and everybody loves the American version. I think the American version is good, but it isn't really very gutsy, in my opinion. Like it's more like, well, these people all have redeeming qualities, and like David Brent doesn't have redeeming qualities, really. This guy would get fired, and then they do. They fire him, and he does a reality TV tour. I think like, and Ricky Gervais is sort of the layers of narcissism and protection and self-loathing in this guy are just like chef's kiss, like amazing. Like I don't know how he does it. And this guy has a lot of those same qualities where like, you can't see through the artifice, like Ricky Gervais was David Brent, and this guy is the characters that he inhabits, especially the flame out like embarrassment characters. Yeah.
This is a betrayal on levels never seen.
So yeah, I didn't think I would like this at first. I was like, oh god damn it, it's all just him being uncomfortable. But I'll say it early. I think it actually, the series is, season 1 anyway, is freaking brilliant. I think it's pretty damn brilliant.
Nice. Yeah, I think to Brian's point, I think that's one of the first like ways that we bonded at work was over like sketch comedy and like discovering that we were both like super fans of like the same shows from like the 90s and onwards.
And it's weird because, but I haven't really watched a lot of these like seminal comedy series. Like I never watched Mr. Show, and like everyone in that improv group I was in was like, oh, Mr. Show, because it was back then. It was like 2002. I mean, I watched all these
adding it to the spreadsheet.
Yeah, right. And I watched all this Monty Python stuff, when I was a kid, and I love Monty Python. Saturday Night Live, I've watched on and off over the ages, and like
you got to watch it in order to really get it, I think.
Saturday Night Live. Yeah, there's a real continuum there.
All 30 seasons.
Lorne Michaels is the continuum. I think this is like the way this guy writes sketches, like he just allows the thing to go wherever he feels like it should go. And sometimes it's really straightforward. I think like one of the haha funniest ones is like the motorcycle guy who gets beamed down from Motorcycle Planet, and he's like, nice motorcycle! Motorcycle with no motor! Okay! That's just like straight up funny, but like sometimes he's like, this simple sketch is going to turn into Bohemian Rhapsody, where it's going to have like 17 unexpected like launching points where you're like, what? Now they're doing opera? Like the porno guy, honk if you like smut or whatever the play was. Yeah,
if you're horny.
Which is funny because when I saw it the first time, I was looking at his license plate because it had a personalized license plate. I didn't even see the bumper sticker. So I was like, what the fuck? Why is this guy honking? I'm like, I'll find out, I guess.
Which goes into Friday night.
Really...
I love that one because for the longest time, I thought he was just singing someone else's, like it was a famous pop song or something that I had never heard before.
Yeah.
And finally looked it up and was like, no, that was that song they wrote for the show. It's just totally believable as a...
I love the guy who's like really horny. He's just like... just freaking out.
My stomach hurts.
It's like someone who doesn't know what horny means doing an impression of someone who's horny. You're like, what? What the fuck are you doing? Joshua, what are your least? Because you're the proponent, the biggest proponent, I think.
I feel like the choking / Caleb Wentz, the celebrity who like shows up at the restaurant and it's like, oh, it's Caleb Wentz here, and he gets so excited that he starts choking, but he's so embarrassed. He wants to look cool in front of Caleb Wentz that he fights through choking. I have seen this one so many times, and I just don't find it funny. I find it annoying.
Yeah.
I find it just
when he says poppers,
it's like you can't drink it, you can't eat that, you can't drink. He's like
falls out of his mouth.
The thing is, I know a guy. I worked with a guy, and we worked in a basement, IT department, a basement, and they had a late night like server switch over, and this guy, I brought in all this old Halloween candy that I found from like a year before. And I said to these guys at work, like, look, this Halloween candy is stale, but I know you're going to eat it. So I don't want to hear any shit about how stale it is. Just be quiet and eat the candy. And so they're eating this candy. So on server night at like 12:30 at night or something, this one guy, Daniel, he eats a piece of candy and it sticks in his throat. And he's embarrassed so that he's choking. So he goes into this back room that's completely dark and like you can't even really see it. You have to go around this elbow into this like dark cave of an office room. And one of the other guys was like, where'd Daniel go? He goes around the corner. This guy's in there dying, choking to death because he was embarrassed that he was choking. So this other guy Heimlicked him and like freaking saved his life. But this guy was literally going to die of embarrassment, like from choking. So I was like, this does happen.
So that one resonated with Greg, or did not resonate with me.
All right, yeah.
I feel like that one. There's definitely some sketches that I would say like are weaker than others, but if I'm just trying to find the ones that I just don't enjoy like at all, the Garfield intervention party house, which is the very last sketch in the season, which I kind of same with like Full Moon Fever and Zombie Zoo. Like I feel like you needed a stronger closer. So I was disappointed on that level, but also I just found that entire situation to be just annoying, like lacking any punches. There's a Jim Davis serial killer on the loose, and there's a Garfield house and there's a coworker who desperately wants it to be a party house and to turn this intervention into a party. I feel like on paper that's really funny, but I just did not. I didn't laugh. So.
All the decor being Garfield was pretty funny.
I think the guy who's going through an intervention sitting down on an Odie chair, and she goes, the tongue sticks out when you recline it. That's funny enough right there.
Oh.
I'm laughing because you guys are laughing. I just didn't think it was very funny.
The giant goggle
it wasn't. It was kind of on the lower end of all the sketches, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, one that I would probably put as I didn't love, and I kind of wanted to skip through it, was That's a Chunky, the game show one.
Oh, the Chunky.
The mascot
with Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg in it, and
he's like, we got to figure out what the Chunky does. We got to figure out what you do.
And it kind of goes on and on, and I just was like, all right.
I think my two least favorite were the baby of the year. I don't think that's a funny one. Nah, it goes on and on.
That's my top two.
Oh wow, man! I think
fuck you, bro.
That's the only funny part. I think. Like, for me, I like the people yelling "fuck you" to the baby.
Tiny Dinky Daffy, pancaked by a drunk dump truck driver.
And
that didn't get you.
Nah,
they don't normally say the cause of death in the memorial.
Shut up.
There's some good lines in it. I think like Sam Richardson does a good job. Where he's like, shut up, asshole. Like he's funny, in that. The other one is like the only sketch that is like entirely a SNL sketch except with swears in it is when they're taking selfies and she's like, here, these pig dicks, these fat pig dicks. And like it's funny for the first like one, but they do like 6 of them, and you're like, also you can't type that fast. I know it's not realistic, but like that one was like a total SNL thing where
I can see that being a tamed down SNL sketch.
I think this is one of the reasons I really like the show, is that the people who do like kind of appreciate it all seem to appreciate it on different levels and get different things out of it. I don't know how many people I've recommended the show to, and less than 50% have come back with as glowing a review as it's brilliant. Most people have been like, not my thing.
TC Tuggers shirts. It's obvious product placement in the show, and like the 2 kids like stop cold in their conversation and they're like, tell us more about TC Tuggers, and like aren't making fun of it at all.
I love that this follows the path of it's very much to me like Outcast comedy, where it's smart, very specific comedy writing that may or may not be for the general masses, but the small subset which And I think that's slightly changed over the past 10 years. Like you start kind of see the absurdist cringe comedy creeping its way into like the mainstream. Even in the stalwarts like SNL, like bringing in someone like, Sarah Sherman, kind of allowing that type of comedy to sort of permeate is interesting to me. That is sort of making its way. And same thing for, even Mr. Show having to be on HBO. And now with these other outlets like Netflix, some of these offbeat comedy things can find their way to an audience that normally probably would not be normal. But I do think the general public is kind of getting warmed up to this, even though SNL has been kind of doing it with like the Lonely Island sketches and kind of these weird clips and stuff like that to kind of bring this type of comedy. But I think where before it sort of was, people who like The State and Mr. Show, it's a weird subset of just, if you love it, you love it, right? But most people just don't get it. And then you find your people that really like it and you just think it's the funniest thing in the world. So I think it's very interesting that, a very specific style of comedy writing. You said, SNL, like he worked at SNL, was a writer there. Same thing with like Larry David, right? Didn't write very long, wasn't very successful as a writer, but went off and did a very similar type of brand of comedy, So it's sort of interesting to me that breaking out of traditional cable TV networks has given opportunities for a lot of this to sort of breathe. And I think it's still funny that it's permeating, but I have a lot of like reverence for these type of shows. I was trying to think about it a little bit, not to go off on a tangent, but is it this generations or the last sketch comedy show that I saw this much attention probably was Chappelle's Show. It was incredibly quotable and things like that. Is that this like
Key and Peele?
Yeah, like is that? That's a good point too. I forgot about Key and Peele.
Yeah, I actually like Key and Peele.
Yeah, I like them too.
Yeah, great.
Is it like this phase? The next is it? I think you should leave the next kind of Key and Peele or Chappelle Show or that kind of thing, because something so quotable that is all over the place. Because I remember when Chappelle's Show came out, I was in college maybe or something. But
oh my god!
And you couldn't get away from the Rick James stuff, and it was fun. It was hilarious, but I still think it's funny. But it's kind of interesting that every kind of decade has its thing. That
I forgot about Key and Peele. I actually love them. Yeah, like I love Key and Peele because like they're funny, that's really smart, and it's also, I do like stuff where there's social commentary laced in, like the zombie episode of Key and Peele, like the zombies won't touch black people and the zombies are like walking across the street when they see the two of them and they're like, well, what the hell, what's wrong?
I'm not good enough to eat.
Not gonna eat. Like you go to a car and the zombie rolls up its window and they're like, so fucking, you see this? Like, I definitely respect that show for like taking some pretty solid punches. This show isn't that, but like I said, if there is anything that I take out of it, it's that like this guy is basically saying society and its norms and delicacies are bullshit.
Well, I actually think that this show is it makes a very I think apt social commentary in the way that it portrays normal people. Like all the extras that he uses, they're normal people, like normal looking people. They use trans actors. They have characters that are in interracial relationships, and it's never the butt of the joke.
Yeah,
it's never part of the laugh. It is just presented as reality, and I think that's like one of the most powerful like social commentaries. And the fact that it's understated is what makes it so powerful. So
I think it's also fascinating that all the extras are fantastic, like actors. Like you ever notice there's no crappy acting, even in any interaction, which is surprising to me for like a sketch comedy show where there could be some dubs or whatever, but they're all pretty
tons of unknowns.
Yeah, tons of
but
people
they're all really high caliber. Really high caliber. Yeah.
Even that guy in the auto sketch where they're trying to come up with like ideas for a new car, the old guy.
Yes. Oh my god.
It's like
Ruben Ravasso, who's become a celebrity unto himself after his appearance.
Where do you find that guy? That's amazing. You like your mother-in-law.
That guy's great. And even like the guest stars, like a lot of times when you have comedy series like this, that they'll have more famous people be guest stars and they stink. Like they're like, oh, we shoehorned in, one of the SNL people, but like the airplane sketch, I'm like, he's so good at that, man. He's like, his delivery is like, probably a great idea to get some sleep. Yeah. Probably looking forward to that. Yeah, having a great time. Yeah. He's such a creep. He's so good.
Yeah, there's really great guest stars. I think in like season 2 and 3, not to throw too many spoilers in, but like Bob Odenkirk, Fred Armisen, Tim Meadows, like they all, Jason Schwartzman, I think is one of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good guest stars.
Talk about celebrities or cameos. I was watching this as a rewatch, and I'm literally crying. There's like. I'm watching the Fred Willard sketch with the old timey organ, and I'm dying laughing. And she's staring over the kitchen. I'm literally crying. I'm laughing so hard. She's like, "What is wrong?" I just when he starts pulling the organ things, I just fucking lost it. Yeah, it breaks the dishes, and I was dying. And I've seen that sketch before.
I'll play you up.
I'll play you up.
The late great Fred Willard. And I the fact that it was one of his last. Yeah, that was one of his last appearances too.
He was on death's door,
and I think that's my favorite sketch. I'm just like, when he starts honking and I just fucking lost it.
This one's a somber one, so it's okay to cry. It's about a big baby duck that gets his head stuck in a stewed tomato.
Stewed tomato.
But yeah, he's got a stack of
and you
plates.
know he made that shit up. That was not a line. Fred Willard
made
that shit up.
I see that you brought your larger organ with you.
That sketch just existed for Fred Willard to be Fred Willard.
It was perfect.
One more friggin' time.
Yeah, but that sketch just got me. I just lost it. I was like, literally, tears were crying. She's like, "What is wrong with you?"
The gift receipt one is another one. Like the horny guy, the gift receipt, where like they just go all over the damn place. Like everyone like turns on the nice guy, like Steven Yeun, another Chicago guy. That's Steven Yeun, the guy from Walking Dead. He was in a Chicago comedy group called Stir Friday Night for quite a while.
Really?
Yeah.
I see him as like a dramatic actor. Like that's crazy.
Nice. He started out. He moved to Chicago to get into comedy. Did comedy. I didn't know him, but like I knew that group, and they had flyers all over the place. They were always playing like IO and stuff.
I was gonna say, I feel like everyone's either gone through some branch of Second City or IO or.
If you go to Chicago and you do, because I did improv for maybe 4 years there, and if you even just go through the classes and do a couple teams, you're just going to run into people who will get famous or will get moderately famous, or who'll be a writer or a showrunner or something. It's kind of a trip.
Yeah. Kind of rare that something like this show would have actually bubbled up to the level of success that it's seen. Maybe that's attributed to Netflix, I guess.
It is. A network would never have played the show, NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, the old networks. Like there's no way they could have had enough people to sell this.
But I think just its endless quotability as well, because it, like, I know you're not on Instagram, Greg, but there's just this, it gets, people take clips from it and they create whole new like genres out of it that has contributed to its rise, because it's enormously popular. I think well beyond what anyone thought it would be. But
I think that's true in that when you can take a small clip, and then I think the TikTok and Instagram Reels and the ability to do that has made it even more popular, because you can just regurgitate it in all different forms and make it just whatever. It's sort of taken on a life of its own, like whether they're memes of him in the hot dog costume, which was around for like pointing to everything, like, oh, we got to find the guy who did this, like that sort of stuff, or we got to find a way to make money off this thing, which is in season 3. That one's circulating now and stuff like that. So they just can just keep.
He's in the hot dog suit, like stealing suits and giving a speech about how disconnected we are. We look at porn we look at our phones.
I know these names better than my own grandmothers.
I feel like that sketch was really, really great, but then it became brilliant the second, like, she was like, "You're in a hot dog suit." He's like, "So's that guy."
That guy with the suit.
His suit. That's the same color as hot. Oh.
Guy goes, "Oh no!" Yeah, like he realizes it at that moment.
Well, if no one's gonna take this car, I'm just gonna
drive it back to Wiener Hall. I think. there are two sketches in particular that I would consider like my favorite, or for different reasons. The first is the laser spine specialist slash totally in your Q zone sketch. That one
Yeah.
I don't think is particularly like, it's not brilliant or anything, but it always gives me a laugh. Just always, just I can fight my wife's new husband, Danny Krause. That one,
Yeah.
I just love it so much. But the one I think that is probably the most brilliant out of all of them is that like Ford focus group with Ruben Rabasa, because it has, like, first of all, Ruben, he has so many great lines. Like
So
everything
funny,
he
man.
says is just golden.
so
But the
funny,
actual,
man.
like the writing of the sketch, it heads in one direction where it's like Ruben is the weirdo.
Weirdo.
He's the total weirdo. And then all of a sudden it flips and it's Paul is the butt of the joke, where he's the one who flinched and he's the one who's the teacher's pet. And then, and you think it's just Ruben versus Paul, but then everybody
gangs
turns
up
on
him.
Paul. And the second that Tim Robinson's character is like, no, because you flinched, you got to marry your mother-in-law. Like the whole thing just becomes so insane. Like it takes so many turns. I just love it.
It's a different variety of the gift receipt one, where it's like, it starts out where like he's this, the weirdo, and everyone's like, Jesus Christ, you're like, shut up about their gift receipt. And then they all start like one by one, like flipping on the host and being like, no, you're the outcast. And it like basically ruins his life. And he dies. What dies?
That was great.
That's what I admire about this guy, and is letting the idea roll. Like following the rolling ball and just being like, let's see where this thing goes. And I'm sure he's thrown out a bunch of stuff. Before I'm sure he throws out a ton and keeps a little, but just keep following the chaos and seeing where it goes, and you're going to come up with some genius stuff. And like if you have a good eye for editing and a good eye for quality, you won't keep all your crap. I feel like he has a good editor's eye too, or somebody does over there, and he mostly keeps the good stuff.
I'd be curious to know how much of this is improv or if it's all just written. I mean, the genesis of the idea is there, but I wonder if he lets them kind of just riff on it, and then you edit, or I'm sure there's some level of improvisation, but I wonder.
It feels pretty written to me.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of too smart and specific to be improv, but
a lot of people will get sketches from improv. Like Second City does this. They improvise all their stuff in rehearsals. They come up with a whole mess of stuff. They start forming scenes with it, and then when they get it where they want it, they write it down. And so they, and repeat it. You can improv it inside the sketches. You can do little improv bits inside the sketches, but the structure is the same. They've got lighting cues, they got sound cues. You got to hit your marks.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a lot. It's probably made the same way.
I love the sketch with the copier, like Christmas Came Early. Just the actor, the actor where she's so
I like her.
so upset that no one
Patty
thinks
Harrison
funny. There's a sketch in a subsequent season that is just perfect with the tables.
Yeah. She's like his stand-in. I like it when he uses a stand-in for his normal role and lets someone else be the flop sweat like oddball. And I love that because he just walks in and he's like, "Hey, Santa came early. Hey, that's pretty funny." And, like, makes her day.
Yeah,
basically like makes her life.
She's fantastic. I wish she's in season 3 as well, but I think she's only in like one sketch, and I didn't feel like it was nearly as funny as in season 1 and 2. But no spoilers for Greg if you're gonna embark on season 2 and 3.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna watch the rest of it. Yeah, I started to watch a couple of season 2 scenes, but nice. I was like, I'm gonna go watch the first one again. Yeah.
I will make a recommendation. Brian, I don't know if you've seen this either, but there is another series on Netflix called The Characters. And there's an episode that's Tim Robinson, and it is essentially just a B-side to I Think You Should Leave. It could
Oh, really?
You could take that episode and put it right in a season of I Think You Should Leave. It's sketch comedy. There's like 6 of them on there, and they're all really good. I sometimes get those sketches confused with I Think You Should Leave because they fit perfectly. Recommendation. It feels like an Easter egg episode that's just out there.
I was just wanted to, we hadn't brought this one up, but I just thought it was really funny and random. The one where they're doing like charades and he is dropping all the jazz singers.
Tim Heidecker.
And then the gazpacho at the end.
gazpacho soup.
Yes. Burns my lips.
Yeah, like a gazpacho soup.
He's like, here's there's a frequent guest on the Colgate Commodore. He's a frequent
Roy
guest on
Donk, the king of the tuk-tuk sound.
He's like, I don't know who the hell this guy is.
That sketch is so funny because it has such a great punchline where the guy is just like a total asshole through the entire party. He's completely alienated everybody, and he's like, "This is I'm bored at this party. We're leaving." And then his girlfriend, who by rights has been a pretty normal person up until that point, is just, "You guys really embarrassed me in front of Howie."
Yeah,
That just kills me. And then it ends. The whole episode just ends and goes to black.
And he's also a dick to her. He's like, like when we were talking about like how you got to be committed to something, you're not committed enough to writing to be a good writer.
Yeah. Tim Heidecker is in a few. I think he's in like 3 sketches, like one every season.
That one was funny, and the one that kind of like turned on its head where I didn't see where it was going was the baby shower, and he's like, because the fedoras. And I was like, where's he going with that? And he's like, your mob's movie didn't. He's like, I was like, oh, he's getting rid of all the mobster movie shit.
Trying to get rid of his
but I didn't see where he was going with that. Like,
I love the part where she's like, I guess we can take a few of the fedoras, as like a gesture. And he's just like, oh God, you think he's so relieved. And he's like, I just gotta get all of them though. You gotta buy up just like all 50 of them. He's like, yeah, I mean, it's gotta be worth something on my end, like otherwise no deal. But he's like half crying when he says it. Like,
fake plastic meatballs.
Who wants this? Nobody wants 1,000 plastic fake meatballs.
They look like pieces of shit.
It's a baby shower.
No, they don't look like pieces of shit. And then that like one old guy just totally appreciates the shitty fedora. He's like,
oh yeah, and then cuts to the Tommy gun.
Okay, well, so let's. I know we've already, mentioned how much we love this show, but let's go ahead and give it an official grade. So, was this right in your Q zone, or was this very meat and potatoes? Greg, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I've already said as much, but like, I didn't know what to expect out of it. Like, I trust your guys' opinion of what's funny. I'm not always going to agree with you about what's funny. And like I said, I had to bust through my middle child comfort zone where I wanted to fix everything because I was like, this guy needs so much fixing. When I let him just be him and let the show roll and just went with it, I was like, yeah, it's pretty fucking brilliant. It's so smart. It's so original. It's not like anything that I've seen. He trusts his own innate sense of weirdness and is really confident in his trust of his weirdness and what he thinks is funny. And like people who really trust in their idea of funny, if you're going to get some really strong material from him. So yeah, especially the second time watching it, I was like, this is pretty fucking brilliant. So I totally give it an A.
Yes,
got him. We
did it, Joshua. We did it. We brought Greg to the ball. Got him. Gotcha, bitch.
He's just really just a really smart, really funny dude, and just weird as hell, and like I love it.
I hope you like season 2 and 3 as much.
I hope he doesn't ruin it. Yeah, I hope it doesn't like.
If you like season 1, I see no reason why you wouldn't love season 2 and 3. Honestly, but yeah, I hope you get as much enjoyment out of those two as you get out of this one. Brian?
Well, I don't think it's any.
It's tradition. Come on,
surprise here. A+. I am the target audience for this show, where I find things that are more absurd even funnier. I was telling Jen that the fact that she doesn't find it funny makes it even funnier to me. Like, the more you can ratchet the absurd cringe, the happier I get inside. When I see someone just is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like,
she's gonna be like Cecily Strong after that Fred Willard episode. She's gonna be like, we'll stay together for the house, but our relationship as a romantic thing is over. Exactly. When you laughed at the old man throwing plates, I was done with you.
God. I lost it. I mean, there's, I've always been a huge fan of sketch comedy. Mr. Show, The State, Kids in the I think I've watched most all. In Living Color, I was a huge fan of that one. Like anything that I find is just like boundary pushing, someone finding a different comedic voice or thread and then pushing it in that direction and being super comfortable with it. Like I love when people are just willing to go in a different, I don't need a laugh track, like it's even something as dumb as Seinfeld, but that's still its own thing. Like it's like do something totally different and carve out your own little niche that finds its audience. And, I love that about it. So I'm always a fan of anybody willing to push boundaries in a comedic direction that, and hey, if it's cringy and other people don't think it's funny, then I, some reason, find that even funnier. Yeah. So everyone knows how I feel about this. As soon as we called this, as soon as the die, just, fate rolled itself into this.
Meant to be.
The Dune die brought Greg into the fold. It's only you were going to get inundated with gifts from Joshua moving forward. But I'm glad that the show has had so much success. A fucking plus.
Joshua, what do you think of the series? I'm in suspense.
It's a definite A plus.
Like
it's kind of a cosmic gumbo. It moves to the beat of jazz. It's like very special to me. I think it came out before the pandemic, and there was so much like content being made during the pandemic. But I always ended up coming back to this show just over and over and over again. It is, as a piece of medium, it has brought me more joy than most other pieces of medium over the past like 10, 15 years. So it has a very special place in my heart. So total A plus for I think should leave. Don't recommend it for everybody, but if you're the type of person who is a connoisseur of sketch comedy and being uncomfortable, this is the show for you.
Yeah, I feel like we have no middle judge, right? The panel has no middle judge who's like, well, I have reservations about it,
Yeah, I said I've recommended it to a lot of people, and no one's ever been like, like it was okay. It's always been, this is terrible, or it's great.
I'd love to hear from a detractor of why they don't think it's funny.
I know. I almost
Jen
wish
in here.
I didn't like it,
It's
so
true.
I could represent the people who didn't like it. But like I did.
Well, there's probably a reason that the three of us are doing a podcast together, is that our sense of humor is likely similar. But yeah, we should have brought a guest in.
I think
for
we're
this.
going to find things that we
Yeah,
hate.
I mean, Greg shit all over the Warriors.
I didn't shit all over the Warriors. I said it was okay. I was like,
Give it a C.
you gotta have people that I give a damn about, and it didn't. It's all story and no the characters are all dead.
We're not going to rehash old business.
Right.
We're not going to rehash old business. But I think this has been one of those great outcomes where someone recommends something and the other person like really enjoys it. So I'm getting that serotonin burst right now. Like, I feel very, very happy.
I know with music, yeah. If I pass a band to someone and they're like, "That was really good," even a song, they're like, "That was the jam." Yes. I'm like, why do I feel good? I didn't make it, but I do. I feel good. I didn't make the damn thing.
Bring someone into the
yeah, exactly. I feel
they're in on this thing that you felt really good about. So
part of my resistance to liking the show is I was like, now I have to join a cult. now I gotta wear the orange robes and shave my head and worship this Tim guy.
You got to put on the creamsicle hoodie.
Worship him.
I
was like, all right, I'm paying my $3,000 dues to the cult. I'm gonna join the cult. I'm in.
I think it's time to break out the Dune.
What are we going to experience next week? So I got the old D20 right here. We got a big old list and a spreadsheet here. Let's go. Ready? 3.
What is it?
What?
Dune!
No.
It's rigged. It's all rigged.
Dune.
It's not.
It's all rigged. We're going to watch the movie Dune? Which one?
We're watching David Lynch's Dune.
David Lynch.
I can't wait.
I'll watch David Lynch's Dune.
I can't wait.
I that's just me, right? I've never seen the whole thing. I know part. Obviously, I've read Dune and I've seen the recent one, but I've never gone back and watched this. Actually, this will be
perfect
fun for me. So,
and Greg, you have seen it?
saw it a long time ago.
Perfect.
You
Awesome.
know, I'll probably have to order David Lynch's art book of photographs he took of maggots eating different dead things that he introduced on the David Letterman show once.
I feel like they're all just hitting on all Joshua's like greatest
I
hits
know.
right now. We're hitting the Warriors and stuff.
Like-
Like, dude,
I will send you guys a Dune dice in the mail, and you guys can roll next time.
He's like the dungeon
Yeah.
master.
I feel like some of these are rigged. They're his dice weighted
die.
for not.
He's rolling crooked dice. Crooked dice.
Yeah, he's a
right.
cheater.
We'll see you next week.
Spider